Since I began getting more into speedrunning a few months ago and watching more runs, one game, Celeste, stood out to me and quickly became one of my favorite runs to watch. 2D platformers tend to be popular speedrun games, and as such, there are an overwhelming amount which are run. However, Celeste stood out due to its artistry combined with the ridiculous movement and skips the runners have discovered and utilized with seeming ease. As such, this video will not only be discussing 7 reasons you should run Celeste, but exploring why it's such a great game for speedrunning in general. With that, let's get right to number 1. It's easy to run poorly. This might seem like a bad thing, but in reality, it's exactly what you want for a speedrun game. For new runners, it's frustrating when you have to put in hundreds of hours before you can even start running, and so most people prefer games where you can start right away and all that's needed is more practice. Celeste is a hard game for sure, so runners with very little experience will die often and consistently, and that's a good thing. Since the game is so simple, it's easy to tell where you made a mistake. If a runner isn't doing a technique correctly, they'll die. Simple as that. But the reason why they die is obvious as well. If you fall into a pit, it means you jumped too early or did a movement option incorrectly. If you die to a hazard, it means you might have mistimed or pathed incorrectly. This sort of cause and effect punishment allows runners to make a mistake, quickly analyze why that mistake happened, and then work to fix it. It's incredibly rewarding to constantly fail a difficult platformer segment until you begin understanding what needs to be done and then finally nail it perfectly. This ties into number 2. Celeste is forgiving. It's pretty easy to die, and all it takes is to mistime a jump by less than a quarter of a second. Even the world record runs aren't perfect in this regard, and most have several deaths throughout. This really lends to the idea that Celeste is incredibly difficult to master, but forgiving of mistakes. Dying will lose you only a few seconds for the majority of the game, which is helpful, since as we've discussed, you'll be dying very often. While a game which is forgiving of deaths is beneficial for new players, as it encourages them to practice continuously without the fear of having to watch a 30-second long death cutscene, reload the entire level, and then try again, it is also helpful for veteran players. Most veteran runners have to run sections of the game well over 1,000 times, which translates to tens of thousands of deaths. If there was even a 5-second death cutscene, that would translate to hours of time wasted watching a poor pixel girl die over and over. Things that simply waste time in a speedrun, such as cutscenes, lengthy animations, and unskippable dialogue, all slow down a speedrun and cause a run to become bloated and drawn out. In all aspects, Celeste successfully trims the fat, as all 3 of the aforementioned time wasters are fully skippable when they do occur. 3. Pixel art allows for precision. Since Celeste is a pixel art game, the hitboxes of hazards and the hurt boxes on Madeline are quite precise. While they're not perfect and her hair and the very bottoms of her feet lack hurt boxes, for the most part, a hazard has to actually touch you for you to die, not just be near you. Here, watch this for an example. This footage is a TAS run and as such isn't a human runner in real time, but it gives a good example of how precise the collision in Celeste is. Look closely how her feet skim just the very top of the spikes, just barely touching. Now you might be wondering why this matters for speedrunning, but it's actually quite important. Most games work on a series of boxes and bubbles that make up the character, with a model slapped on top that might not exactly line up. That's why if you're playing something like Fallout or CSGO, it might seem like you're caught on the edge of something that's behind you. While playing normally, this might be an annoyance. In a speedrun, unclear hitboxes can end an hour-long run. 2D platformers tend to be a lot more accurate, but Celeste is particularly good, mostly due to the game's art style. The clear and clean pixel graphics allow runners to clearly see hazards and exactly how much space they take, as well as their own character's hurt boxes. This makes the game feel fair and reduces frustration. This, combined with the previous 2 points, really lends to the idea of a game which is rewarding and aims to cut down a lot of the common frustrations that runners might face. And maybe this is because Celeste was quite literally designed for speedrunning, at least originally. Prototype of the game was created in the Game Jam by developers Matt Thorson and Noel Berry, and was specifically designed for speedrunning. They focused on the control and the movement of the game, and included an in-game timer, a post-game timer, and a death count. This clear focus on a game which was fun, but that encouraged beating it as quickly as possible, carried over into the full game from the Pico 8 version. which would later be called Celeste Classic. Having a game which developers specifically designed for speedruns is really refreshing, as many mechanics which make speedrunning frustrating are largely absent from Celeste, namely unskippable cutscenes and heavy RNG. As an aside, if you are interested in Celeste Classic, it is playable for free by the developers online, which I'll link below. It's short, but pretty darn fun, and has a lot of mechanics which would later be fleshed out further in the full release. It also has a speedrun if you're interested, so I'll link the leaderboard to that below as well. Number 5. Each level has their own gimmick. Having a unique mechanic attributed to each level which is explored thoroughly, expanded upon, and then unused in other levels until all 7 unique mechanics accumulate in the final chapter keep the game interesting throughout the run. This might seem like more of an argument to play the game rather than to specifically speedrun it, and that's not actually wrong. While having a variety of unique mechanics to learn about as you run keeps things fresh, and providing a variety of unique challenges is important, nothing is more important than enjoying the game that you run. If you don't love a game or have a deep interest in it, it's unlikely that you'll stick with it for long and be able to put in the practice to get a competitive time. Having a game which is fun and rewarding at its very core is truly integral to having a rewarding speedrun. The previous point is particularly important when you consider the next one. Celeste has a massive variety of movement mechanics, all with their own upsides and all executed differently. Dash cancels, hyper dashes, and wave dashing are all basic movement tech that aren't difficult to learn, but really open the game to a massive amount of movement optimization. This also opens up a lot of pathing possibilities. For example, is it faster to use a dash cancel to circumvent several platforms entirely, or to more quickly jump platform to platform using a hyper dash? Questions like these lend a large amount of depth to the run. Since simply running in a straight line to the finish isn't entertaining or fun, pathing depth is one of the most important things for a speedrun to have. As a side note, Oddbod's movement guide is really well done and would be a great watch if you'd like to know more about Celeste speedrunning or to try out the speedrun for yourself. And finally, number 7. Celeste is simply a fun game. I guess this is a matter of opinion, as some people dislike platformers entirely. However, if you do enjoy platformers, then odds are you'll enjoy Celeste. Almost all of the reasons that make it a good speedrun game make it a fun game as well. Unless you're a masochist, you probably won't enjoy running a game that is frustrating, overlong, and boring. However, the inverse is also true. If you're going to be playing sections of a game 1,000 times, it'll be a lot more enjoyable if you enjoy at least the first few hundred attempts. Having a basic enjoyment of the game is important for speedrunning, and Celeste is honestly easy to enjoy. If you've watched this far, then it's likely that you're somewhat interested in Celeste or speedrunning in general, so perhaps this point is somewhat moot. Speaking of which, thank you for watching. I've heavily enjoyed researching, recording, and editing this, so thank you for supporting me by watching. If you'd like to support the channel further and watch more in the future, please consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts, as it's the best way for me to understand what content you guys prefer. I have a really exciting announcement about the channel coming in the next week or so keep an eye out for that as well. Again, thank you for watching and supporting the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.